Good morning. Hi, everyone. Just wait a moment here. All the faces to appear. Right. So this morning, I'm going to talk about a few things. Last night was amazing. Really deep work being done last night. One thing I'd like to talk about is the witness. As we come to these later stages in the retreat. There's really deep work being done, and it's very important that the witness holds that neutrality for the partner. There's nothing like a good witness. If we can just be completely present for our partner, it's really powerful. But sometimes there uh, people can, when they're going through a really big emotional release, sometimes the witness will react, and it happens. But this is part of the process. But the the invitation is to hold space for your partner. There sometimes people will reach out and if they'll feel that their partner is in a crisis. And if you feel that that is happening, like you can raise your hand, or just to, if you feel like having a facilitator present would be beneficial, just raise hand while in the breakout room. But the whatever's coming up, we've invited. All of these, doesn't matter what it is, deep traumas and releases and emotions. So it's actually the resistance, or the reaction that creates the crisis. It's not that samskara that's coming up. So when we allow everything to be witnessed fully as it is, it arises and passes away. This is how we become free. So if we evaluate, we react, we feel something is wrong. That's our own mind resisting what's happening. Um, and of course, what you resist persists. Um, Yeah, so this is such a difficult thing to really get, because our world is backwards. Our world is an upside down world. This is what the world doesn't understand. We resist and go to battle with everything in the world. The war against this and that, war against terror, war against drugs, and of course they don't go away because what you resist persists. You're um, treating it as other, as if there's this other, um, and like as soon as there's that separation, like the ego itself, that at the very root, that separation is a sort of um, a sort of violence, or a sort of that separation is the beginning. It's the seed of violence. So as soon as you see something as a problem, and resist it, or try to change it, then, it just gives power to that ego consciousness. So the reason for the samskara and that ego identification in the first place is something happened, something in life with a charge that was big enough that it couldn't be completely experienced in the moment. So it gets pushed down into the unconscious. And that resistance stays in the body mind until it can be released, until it can be fully allowed, fully witnessed. Um, yeah. So every time we react to the partner, it's an opportunity missed. So the most loving, compassionate thing we can do is um, just witness, just allow to the best of our ability, and that doesn't mean being cold and inhuman in some way. It just means not evaluating, uh, not not promoting or trying to push in one direction or another, um, just being neutral. Okay, so I'm going to well, first of all, I love what happened yesterday in our in the talk. It is just sort of morphed into the Q&A. So if that happens today again, that's fine. So if there are questions that come up along the way, I kind of like that vibe. We can just go with it, whatever's in the flow, basically. Um, so. So I'm just going to start out. I have another little Zen story. I have lots of those. And I want to go back to, I talked a little bit about the ox herding pictures in Zen. These 10 pictures that depict the whole path of liberation. And they're not necessarily linear, and it's not really meant to be a map. It's just sort of pointing out um, certain unfoldings that are sort of universal, but everyone's unique journey is their own. So it's not meant. The ox herding pictures are not meant to be a step by step how to that we try to follow. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna catch the ox now. Now I'm gonna tame it. Now I'll ride it home. Yeah, like they're metaphors for just the bigger picture of what's happening on the path. So it's not meant to be a how-to guide. So yeah, so the last ox herding picture is uh, this character Hotai, who is the laughing Buddha. So this is the image of the Buddha going back into the marketplace, and so he goes back with helping hands. That's what the description says. He goes back with helping hands. So this laughing Buddha is. I love this image because it encompasses really the full expression of what it means to um, be awake, but not detached from life, to be like the full expression of the human flowering, you could say, the human flowering of human potential. So he goes into the marketplace and just by being, just by living life, he um, he becomes an example, a living example, a living teaching. Um, and the teacher Osho had a interesting take on this. I like Osho talked about a character he called Zorba the Buddha. Um, so for those who don't know, Zorba the Greek it's an old film, but it's about like this character. He's like a peasant character who he's very exuberant and really enjoys life. And so in this movie, Zorba is he shows people how to enjoy life even under difficult circumstances. And he's dancing with life. So it's a beautiful character. So Osho talks about Zorba the Buddha. So we having this capacity to really dance with life, to be with life, to let life come through. And so yeah, I've always loved that image, and I feel that there's a profound teaching and a profound truth in that. Um, so there's a little story about uh, about Hotai, and so he's walking down the street, and there's a student who recognizes that he used to be the abbot of this monastery, and so the student recognizes him and sees him in the city, and he knows he's a great Zen master, you know. Um, so the student says, can you tell me or convey to me, like, what is the direct experience of Zen? What is the direct experience of Zen? So so Hotai, he has this big smile. He's just like larger than life, and he smiles, and he opens his arms and he embraces the student, um, and the student, feels life. They feels this love and this incredible presence, and so the student, is very very moved, and then asks another question. The student says, and what is the highest wisdom of Zen? And Hotai picks up his bag and turns around and he walks away. So complete non-attachment. Um, and I love that story. I think that's it. It's like fully loving, fully embracing everything without attachment. Um, so there's that saying: if you meet the Buddha on your path, you have to kill him. You know, um, and if you haven't heard that before, of course, it's not literal. It means what if the Buddha is something external to you? Sometimes people in their meditation, they get these visions of Jesus or Buddha or Ramana, but if it's something external, um, it's not the real deal. It's still a projection of the mind, because everything external is temporary. Um, it's not your true nature. It can only be experienced directly as your own true nature. So so what that means, if you meet the Buddha, you kill him, you kill that image of the Buddha. You let go of that external projection, whatever the mind has projected. So so like in the example of Hotai, you if you meet the Buddha, you embrace him, and then kill him, basically. So the love and non-attachment. And these are the two dimensions. There's a beautiful quote by Nisargadatta Maharaj, and he says, wisdom is knowing that I'm nothing. Love is knowing that I'm everything. And between the two, life moves. So this non-attachment, sometimes people think non-attachment is, like this disconnect from life. Um, but it's the opposite. It's when we are not attached, it means we've disconnected from the filter. We've disconnected from that, those five skandhas and the preferences and the resistance to life. So we feel life directly. So non-attachment is not a disconnect from life. It's actually, inseparable from the full experience of life. Um, so when we are not attached, when we let go of those, the thoughts that form our beliefs and um, our preferences. It transmutes our experience. So, even emotions, when we have emotions coming up, if we can drop the beliefs that are entangled in those emotions, then, the emotions transmute into something else, into just this aliveness. They transmute into feeling, into direct feeling. Um, so that's part of what we're doing in these dyads. We're transmuting emotions into feelings. So I'll give an example. You know, like every emotion um, is a combination of thoughts and sensations. So take an emotion like anger coming up. So if I'm experiencing anger, um, I'm angry about something. I have a belief in the mind. So, maybe I lost my job and I'm angry at my boss for firing me or whatever it is. So there's a belief there, and then there's the felt sense of that in the body, that resistance in the body, whatever that anger feels like. Maybe there's heat, maybe there's a contraction in the belly. Um, so every emotion is made up of a thought component and and then a sensory component in the body. So um, when we um, let go of the thought, then we're left with this raw sensation. This is the Vedana in the skandhas. Just this pure sensation at the root level of our of this whole perceptual apparatus. Um, so this is a bridge or a gateway. That energy is the bridge. The breath is the bridge. Prana is the bridge. Um, yeah. So any of these emotions that are coming up in our dyads are, if we can stay in the body with it, feeling everything, without going into the story that's in the mind, then these things that seem like hindrances. I love the I think it was Marcus Aurelius said the phrase, what stands in the way is the way. And the hindrances seem to be standing in the way, but they are the way. It's the way in. If we can feel that anger, we can feel that fear, we can and anything that's coming up, any aliveness, any energy, that joy, all of these things can, when they're disentangled from the evaluating mind, um, then it's just an aliveness. Anger is just when we remove the thought about it, there's just an intensity of aliveness, and if we open to that, it's in that opening that things start to move and shift, and that I thought can sort of drop away. So, Krishnamurti was an amazing teacher. He said that you know the capacity to observe without evaluating is the highest intelligence. The capacity to observe without evaluating is the highest intelligence. Yeah, so just to be with what is arising, just to be, just be with it, and it's such a, a beautiful relief when we can just be with what is here and not have to figure it out, not have to analyze it, not have to achieve something in the future. Um, Even, the mind, um, still, when we get this imperative, tell me who you are, the mind still might think it has to find out who we are, but it doesn't. Um, we're not relying on that mind to find out. It's not its job. So if the mind is still thinking there's an answer, um, it's a burden, it's a resistance, it's a doesn't feel alive. It feels egoic, and it is. It is egoic. If the mind is looking, still trying to do something. Um, so somehow, in the alchemy of this process, we're learning to just be open, and we can actually start to love whatever is coming up when we really understand that it is the way in. What stands in the way is the way. So we learn to love our pain. We learn to love the fear. We love the anger, whatever it is. There's some questions popping in here. I'm just going to take a moment. Um, yeah, so there's a question about merging here by Vernon. So yeah, okay, well, let's do that. I'll read that. I think it is. Yeah, this is a good one. Okay. So in the dyad, there appears to be a merging of awareness between two people into a unity, resulting in an experience of love, divine being, and home. Um, the fact that this takes place over Zoom and the parties are separated by great distances suggests that distance and space isn't a factor. Can you explain what is happening? Um, is this in fact a merging, or is it an opening to the same awareness from two portals or something else? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, in the dyads, it can happen that this oneness is experienced directly, and it's ineffable. It's beyond the mind. So, and it's a mystery. So I don't I can't I don't want to explain it away because it's the deepest mystery of our being. So all I can say is you know it. I think what's happening is what's dropping is the illusion of separateness. This filtering mind when two beings, and two consciousnesses, are apparently two consciousnesses, that are identified with this body mind. When that the illusion of that separate self drops away, then it's just the truth that's being revealed. So the truth is we were never separate to begin with. So even this idea that we're merging, might feel like that as the veil drops away. There might feel, there might feel like a progression into that oneness. But the truth is, we were never separate because when we are awake, we recognize that one awareness was always here, always present. Actually, that question is a beautiful lead-in to something that I wanted to share. So I have another little teaching here, and this is from one of my favorite Zen teachers, Dogen, who I've mentioned a few times. So Dogen is the founder of Soto Zen, and so this is from something called the Genjokoan, and it's a very mystical sort of teaching. It's like it is a koan, so it's meant to break the mind, basically. So this part of it though is very he sets out the path of liberation in a really, really beautiful way. He it's very, very profound. So it's not very long, but I'm just going to explore it a little bit. And so this Genjo Koan, it means to fully manifest or fully share the koan. That's what the word means. And of course, the koan is these little things in Zen that the teacher will give to the student. Like tell me who you are is a koan. Because it can't be answered with the mind. Or what is the sound of one hand clapping? That's the kind of cliche one. So I'm going to mention a few others later as well. These koans, if we really go into them, the mind will will drop. The mind will get exhausted in any attempt to make sense of it. So, but this particular part is it's really if we grasp it, we can sort of feel our way into the non-duality that he's pointing to, beyond the mind. So he says, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. To be enlightened by 10,000 things is to free one's body and mind. Actually, this version, in the other version I have, it's to drop off body and mind. So in this one, he says to free one's body and mind, and the body and mind of others. So just like in Vernon's question, this question of merging, dropping away. So when we free our mind and body, there's no more self and other. There's no other mind and body as well. So you know, when when we drop off mind and body and mind and body of others, then no trace of enlightenment remains. And this traceless enlightenment continues forever. So I'm going to go a little bit through this. because it's really beautifully profound. It really sums up, what we're doing. It like encapsulates the dyads and the dyad process beautifully, and the meditation process. Um, so to study the Buddha way is to study the self. So know thyself. We put attention on the self, as Ramana would say. So, you know, to know thyself, to study the self, is to forget the self. So this is what all this meditation, the dyads are about. The dropping of the identification with the false self. So rather than looking to, the screen of the mind for answers, that conditioned mind that's always in control, we forget the self. So we somehow unhook from that conditioned self, and we can just be here, just abiding in beingness. But this is not the end, though. There's more. So, to forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. So, this is described in different ways. There's many different versions of this translation. So, to forget that when we unhook from that mind, then you could say when we become enlightened by 10,000 things, we come into direct experience with an infinite number of things. We open ourselves to direct experience. So we become enlightened by whatever is arising. Um, so, so this is um, the Savikalpa Samadhi aspect of awakening, or the sense of merging, or the sense of absorption. So when the little conditioned self is gone, it's like I become what is arising. So I can have a direct experience of whatever it is, and whatever is being experienced. So a tree or my partner. I remember at my first enlightenment intensive, experiencing a shower in that, state of presence, like just being one with, the sensation of all of that. So this is, the fruit of awakening is direct experience, but we don't cling to those experiences. We just recognize that it is actually, the recognition and the abiding as this awareness that is the opening into, the kingdom of heaven that is here, all of these direct experiences. Yeah, so to be enlightened by 10,000 things is to drop off one's mind and body, and it's the dropping off of the mind and body of others. So in other words, it's a poetic way of saying it's one mind. This self and other has dropped away. So no trace of enlightenment remains, and this traceless enlightenment continues forever. So, the self, awareness is not a thing, and yet it's not nothing. We can't point to it, we can't convey it in language. It's this ineffable beingness, that awakens, the traceless trace. You know, sometimes It's said that there's one taste. It's the recognition of one taste. It's seeing the one in all. It's seeing God in all. It's seeing I am in all. Um, for me, I don't use the word God that often, but for me, the God, I like in the some of the Bible teachings, like the Old Testament. They when Moses goes up on the with the burning bush and all of that, God reveals his name or its name, or Moses realizes that God is I am that I am, which in some translations, which I like better than the usual Bible translation, is I am that I am. But if you look at the translations of people like Rudolf Steiner, it's actually I am the I am. I am the I am. You know? So the name of God is I am. You know? So this it's the gateway to the kingdom that's here right now, the direct experience of life. No more self and other. Wherever I look is the face of God. And we find, in the beautiful teachings of the Sufis, or some of the traditions, they have these practices where they'll recite the name of God, and the idea is to recognize that God is everywhere, or I am is everywhere. But it's not some disembodied God, or some being separate from you. It's recognizing awareness itself, this primordial I amness that it's here dancing as all things. So I'm gonna maybe talk about another koan as well, um, which is a very powerful one to this is one that I encountered when I was at the Zen Center. Not in the word form, not in the koan form, but in a very direct form. And I'll share a little experience I had, and hopefully it'll become clear, how these koans really work. So this is the koan of mu. It's mu. So it's not moo like a cow, but it's mu. It's a Chinese word that it actually, I believe it means not, or no, but it also, in Zen, it has a very specific meaning, a non-dual meaning. So, in this koan, this comes from it's called the Gateless Gate. It's a commentary from a Zen teacher named Momon. So in the Gateless Gate teaching, there's a bunch of different koans, and so there's a monk, and he asks this master Joshu, does a dog have a Buddha nature or not? So this is a classic Zen question, and Joshu looks at him and says "mu," and so the word, it doesn't mean no, or it doesn't mean yes, or it means in Zen essentially drop the mind, drop the mind. Like he knew if he answered yes or no to that question, It's he would just be engaging on that level of mind. So the truth, does you know the truth about Buddha nature is not revealed through an answer to a question like that. Um, it's revealed when the questioner drops. Um, so that mu is like you think of it as a sword to chop off your head. You know so when these questions come up, it's you know we can use mu to uh, just chop the head, chop the mind. Um, and for me, I had a experience at the Zen Center where um, there was a kensho happened, and um, there was just being in presence. And I went to, they have, it's called Dakusan, which you sit in front of the Zen master, and you can talk about your practice or what's coming up. And so it's an opportunity to talk to the teacher. And so I went in and just it was like completely present. There were no thoughts, so we were just looking into each other's eyes. And it was like this meeting, like no person there. And then the mind uh, started to formulate a question, and so the teacher, he could see the mind starting to move, and I was about to ask a question. I was going to say something silly like, so what is this? What is this state or whatever? And so he saw, the mind, the question coming up, and the Zen masters have this little stick, and it's like this. I think it's called a dorji, the thunderbolt. So you could think of the thunderbolt actually as mu. Um, so he picks up the stick, and he's like, "Don't," and he's just like really fiercely present, and the mind dropped again, and so that mu teaching, the thunderbolt, just that don't, you know, it landed deep in my being, and it was just like an instant clearing of the mind. It doesn't matter what's coming up in the mind. It doesn't matter how we define or if how what's going on. It's what it's just a very direct transmission, you know, and another name for it is the Zen slap. It's like a Zen slap. Some of the teachers would, the old Zen masters would actually hit their students. So luckily, that didn't happen. But well, actually, that would be great too. That'd be perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so yeah, so I'll just leave you with that. And I see another question here. I'm just going to take a look at this one. Yeah, so this is a big one. So yeah, I have a hard time grasping the concept of non-attachment, especially when there's so much injustice happening in life. Poverty, war, violence towards kids, animals, and women. If we don't speak up and advocate for change, we are just becoming part of the problem and witnessing and allowing injustice to continue to happen in the world. Yeah. So this is a big one. And this I think this comes up at every retreat. I think every retreat somebody has mentioned this. Um, yeah, so um, sometimes there's a feeling that if if I'm not attached, then I somehow lose my compassion or my impulse to make a positive change in the world. But it's actually the opposite. Um, we don't like non-attachment doesn't mean not being engaged in the world or not being moved by life. When we unhook from that ego structure, the ego structure is reacting to all of these things like all the injustices of the world, which they're everywhere right now. It's incredible. All of the suffering that's happening. So the ego mind is reacting. It's reacting out of anger, out of fear, out of a sense of indignation or whatever it's doing. And it's that reactive mind that perpetuates all of it. All of this is egoic activity. The poverty and war and inequality, the greed that leads to that. It's all egoic consciousness. So if I'm reacting to it, then again, what you resist persists. I'm going to battle. I'm going to fight the injustice, and so you have this endless struggle being perpetuated. So if I can see my own ego in this endless samsara, then if I can detach from that egoic mind, then energy becomes free to there's an intelligence that starts to come through, a compassion that starts to come through that is it's not a reaction to the world. It's the the bodhisattva of compassion is this that we talked about yesterday. It's this being that we all are, that the true being, and naturally when we see everyone as the one mind, when we realize that we're literally all one, not just conceptually but actually, that's where the true change in the world will flow from, is that recognition, seeing that we literally all are one. So awakening, to our true nature is the beginning of the possibility of a different way of acting in the world. So not fighting against injustice, but actually getting to the root of it, seeing that it's the egoic consciousness itself that's created this separation. So if we can show others that is the case, help others to see themselves, then we're not just helping people, giving them a loaf of bread or whatever it is. Like we can, all of that's beautiful. Of course, we're going to do that. If somebody's, the natural impulse when we recognize the one source is, to extend a hand. If somebody's drowning, non-attachment doesn't mean, oh, I'm just not attached. I'm free of the illusion. I'll just let them drown. No, it's when that energy is free and alive, it naturally flows to help others. When I see the truth that I am another being, then I'm as likely to help that being as myself. So Yeah. So, so all these worldly, to me, all these worldly problems come down to, just a failure to know who we are, the truth of who we are. We feel like there's this other out there, this separation. And, there's um, a French existentialist named Jean-Paul Sartre had a great phrase, and I interpret this phrase in my own way, but I think he meant it in a more cynical way, perhaps. But he said that hell is other people. Hell is other people. So but it's true. If I have this sense that there are other people. If I'm, my ego is the boundary, creating this duality between self and other. So that is hell. That's the definition of hell. Is this separation. You know, so then I go to battle. I want to fix that other rather than recognizing the truth that that I am not, and whatever qualities I see in that other, you know what I'm seeing in the other is a reflection of where my own heart is at. um, you know there's that beautiful saying of Hegel that evil resides in the gaze of one that sees evil all around it. You know, so it's a very very deep quote. So you know, yeah. So if I perceive evil all around, um, it's actually in that perception. It's a reflection of my own egoic consciousness. So I'm just gonna take a look at. There's a lot of little things coming in over here. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful comments there. Yeah, okay. So, um, yeah, I think maybe we'll resume the normal schedule. So why don't we take a little break right now and maybe a 5 minute break, and then we'll come back, do the 1 hour meditation, and then we'll jump into the Q&A after that. Thank you. We'll just take a 10-minute break and then come back for group process. Hey, hi everyone. So, yeah, at this point, I'd love to hear what's going on in your practice, if there's anything coming up. Also, a lot of you are getting insights and awakenings and all kinds of things happening. So, if sometimes when you're kind of fresh in that process, there can be amazing insights coming through that could be pointers helpful for the group or just whatever has sort of landed with you. I'd love to hear what's happening. And also, I just want to mention um, we're going to be working with Chad this afternoon. So he's going to be coming for 2 to do his breath session. And I'll just mention why I've included that because sometimes it's not immediately obvious, because we're doing these sort of non-doing practices coming into just being. But what I've found at these retreats, Chad has been part of the retreats at the Samadhi Center, at the physical center for years, and what we found is at this point in the retreat, because we've been doing so much letting go and loosening the bonds of the self structure, for 6 days, you're sort of primed for a big release. So sometimes it could just mean a blissful state. When we go into these sort of energy spaces, we never know what to expect. So by going into that space, we just remain open to whatever arises, and it's like whatever spirit is meant to give us, or however you want to say that. It's different for everyone, but what I've found is, because we've done so much work at this point, we're very open, and so it may be, whatever insight we're meant to see, or a clearing, or it could be anything. So yeah, so that's kind of why I've included that on the schedule. And Chad is amazing at facilitating, as you've got a glimpse of him yesterday. So um, yeah, so that'll be happening at 2 o'clock. Um, so yeah, why don't let's dive in.
Tanya.
Tanya.
Hi. Okay, this character is fresh and very. Um, okay, I'm gonna try to get this through. There's been a lot of release. At the beginning, it was started the day before yesterday. I started having strange phenomena with the character that was in front of me was morphing,
Mhm.
and yesterday it happened again, but more intensely. There was um, a knowing of who and what I was seeing, and at the same time, the mind was completely like, how can this happen? And there was a lot of emotion coming up and tears just by what I was seeing. And I wasn't giving, I was the receiver, I was the witness, and I was literally witnessing different, I don't know, like it's hard to
Yeah,
explain.
yeah, different beings appearing and disappearing.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
was a woman in front of me, but I was seeing a man, and anyways. So I was really, it's a little bit coming back to our discussion we had about duality. And when I came back from that dyad process, first, I was considering not going into the next one, and didn't listen to that, that first the sign is there and the character doesn't listen. And I went in, and it wasn't a great experience. The person in front of me was very reactive, and it jarred me out of beingness and brought me into character, and it really like unbalanced the nervous system. And there's no bad, there's no good. There was a reason. I understand that, and it's coming. It's literally coming up, and it came up in the meditation.
Mhm.
As I was really connecting with the self at that last moment of the dyad, the witness, like, just like, it was very reactive physically and with the voice, and it so jarred me. And then it came to me in meditation this morning that my mother was like that, and I wasn't allowed to be me, and it wasn't safe. And it's crazy because the person's in front of a camera, like, I'm safe, I'm in this house. And that's what's coming up right now.
Mhm.
It is not safe to be me. And I'm still like still living that in almost everyday life,
Yeah.
to like not just do what I want or feel. So I'll adjust. Oh, okay, that person wants to do this, so we'll do that instead, and not say, hey, I want to sit and read a book right now. You go do something else, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So that's what's coming up right now.
Mhm. Wow, that's amazing. And you can feel that pattern in the
Oh,
body as well, the
can you
resistance.
see?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing. So yeah, and so just being with that, just feeling it, seeing what's in play in the mind, as we make it all conscious, yeah, it's bound to reshape our life, in a big way. Because we'll start to feel then explore, what it feels like to, have our own direction, to be you and just be free in life, to not serve the agenda of others or to please others and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's a huge one. It's a huge one. Yeah.
And it's really, particularly because I kept during dyads referring to the I am as the parent, the mind, the older sibling, and the body, the younger sibling. And
Mhm.
if I look, the parent is a pair of renters to rent the mind and the body.
Mhm.
And it's interesting how it ended up flowing into the character that was in front of me that was the parent that wasn't safe.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing insight. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
that,
true. Yeah, sometimes we think of, the awareness as the, even in the Trinity, like the Father is like the absolute, and but we take on the imprint of our physical parents, and it becomes actually, yeah, the little self is made of that, those imprints from the parents. So they it's all in the ego, everything is upside down. It's all, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Thank you. That's a, yeah, beautiful insight.
thank you.
Thank you. Marthan.
Hi, Martha.
Good morning. Thank you for everything all the way up to this point. I took last night off from the Dyads because I was exhausted. The night before, I was so emotional. Oh, I didn't know it was going to come up again. Jesus. I I thought it was emptied out. Now I start crying again. But I was so tired because the night before last night, I got an hour of sleep because I kept tossing and turning.
Mhm.
And I thought, I just can't do the dyads last night. I need a good night's sleep. So I went to bed at like 8 o'clock and I was up at 3.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things that I can't remember what you read earlier, but it was about detachment. And I'm it's really interesting that my brother's gone into hospice right when I started this kind of retreat. Well, not right away, but he was not in a good space anyway. But um, but it's allowed me to kind of just sit with all of it.
Mhm.
The tears, the anger of like, why my brother? No, not now. I'm not ready for this. but it's so, and I think the people that I've talked to in the Dyads before from the very beginning, I think I cried with the first guy. I was the first time because it's just really heavy on me. But this whole thing about detachment, though, it's like, yeah, I can feel the feelings and I can let them all come up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's okay. Life is so impermanent, and there's this happens. And so there is this reality that is, I don't want to say comforting. We're all going to go through it. We all have gone through it. We're going to end up going through it personally. So I just really, really, and have really gotten so much out of this retreat and the dyads. Mostly the meditations and the talks. The dyads are, I know a lot of people are getting a lot of stuff out of the dyads, but I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's good too.
Mhm.
But I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. I, lo-
Yeah.
I love what
Yeah.
you said about detachment. Like it actually gives you the opening to feel everything, and it's like sometimes people think like detachment is about not feeling and becoming cold and distant somehow, but it's the opposite. It's actually, when we're not attached to those preferences and thoughts, we open to the direct feeling of all of it, and it's that there. For me, I always have these little Zen stories, but there's a Zen story where the teacher, loses his wife, and and he's sitting, and one of the students comes up to him and says, how are you experiencing this? Like what's happening? We're curious. Like, do you feel sad? Do you feel what's going on? Because he taught non-attachment, and he had tears in his eyes, and he had feeling the sadness, and he said, of course, it's I'm fully feeling the sadness of my this human experience, but the difference is that sadness is not going to grow roots into me.
Mm.
Hmm.
I really like that, not grow roots. And this makes me think of something else too, and that while I'm here in this retreat, it's kind of preparing me for when I do go back to Connecticut to be with my sister-in-law when this happens. Not to say I won't be emotional. I'm an extremely emotional person. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, Mar." It's like, if I'm laughing, I'm laughing my ass off. If I'm crying, I'm like sobbing. But I think this is really good because I can use a lot of these tools and what I've gotten out of this to kind of maybe be a little bit steadier than I normally am
Hmm.
for her. I
Hmm.
mean, she's been married to my brother for 56 years. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, and this also leads into what BB wrote about being overwhelmed by worldly things. I've gone through this so many times with the animals, and I just can relate to that so much, and learning how to detach because there's so much shit going on in the world that we can't take it all on. But what I found for myself was pick something that you really feel passionate about and just work on that, like really reducing my footprint and reducing the trash, things that I buy, living super simply, and really just eating no meat. That makes me feel good. And if people come over to my house, they don't get meat. They don't get the animal products. And it's just live a life that I can not feel in dichotomous about. Just live in my truth in. So I just wanted to share that because BB wrote that, and I totally understand. I'm
Yeah.
sure, most of us do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, it is such a paradox that when we detach from our that I thought, that things should be a certain way, then we're actually free to express from our true nature, and we will just spontaneously, if that for some people that an expression might be a protest, or it might be a doing this or that or whatever it is, or it might be some creative thing that we never would have explored because we were trapped in the mind, just raging against the machine, you know. So
yeah,
yeah, so it's that energy is our
yeah.
to me that's what changes the world. It's
Mm.
operating from that creative place, that source.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
really appreciate all these wonderful sharings, and
Mhm. Yeah,
thank you.
thank you, Martha. Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. You're muted.
All right, yeah.
Hey.
I have a couple questions. One is about the ghost cave that you spoke about before. I
Yes.
feel like in meditation, I'm able to quiet my mind, but then it just kind of goes blank.
Mm,
And then I think, is this where I'm supposed to be?
mm.
Or am I in the ghost cave? How do I know the difference?
Hmm. Yeah. So when you're so tell me a little bit about what that means when you said I quiet my mind. What does that mean to you? Like how do you describe that?
So there aren't any thoughts, but it feels like within that space, there's different perspectives of stillness. It's like I can move in. One of the perspectives will lead me into dreams. It's like it's completely blank and I let go, but then the dreams will come really easily. And then there's another perspective where it's like I'm holding back the thoughts, and I guess it's not allowing, kind of like a dam, like, okay, no, like
Hmm.
I got this. I'm like in a room, and it's like, okay, they're coming at the walls, but the walls
Yeah.
are holding back the thoughts.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm thinking might be the ghost cave.
Yeah, that's it.
Um,
You nailed it. That's it. So if you yeah, so if you're trying to achieve a sort of blankness, or trying to push away thoughts, that's still a preference of the mind. It's still like it is really just a thought that I need to achieve this blank space, or this void, so in that in Zen they call it the ghost cave of the blank void, or something like that. So yeah, so it's when it's kind of we're pushing away the thoughts, but we kind of doing it with the mind, like we have a preference. So we're yeah, it is like there's an effort there, or a tension, like a resistance there, that's sort of keeping, created this little cave, and it's like, okay, I'm in this little void, but there's not a free flow of life, and not a free flow of energy. It's also keeping life out. So it's different than choiceless awareness, because when we're in choiceless awareness, there is a natural settling down of the mind, but we're not trying to achieve a void. We're not trying to choose, anything in that space. So if you can feel, what you described is exactly it. Like I think you nailed it. Um, so if you can just be aware of that, aware that there is this sort of preference in the mind, that it's just making that conscious, and then just, letting everything be as it is, even the thoughts, and just saying as it is. If the mind is producing thoughts, so be it. But you can just be aware, just recognize that you're not the mind. It's like the mind is like the river, going by. You don't have to get in the river. just be aware.
So hard to allow, and then it just feels like the brain or the mind just fills with a whole bunch of thoughts. It's like, okay, I'll allow it, but then it's just like the circus is there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And
And
that's
it's
why, like these practices, like the body scan, it really is a great one for, if the mind is producing a lot of thoughts, making that connection with the body, like really feeling what's happening in the body, or that thought breaker pattern uh, technique, for just labeling the thoughts. Like those are great things to interrupt. And really, whatever in the practice is moving us in the direction of less thoughts is good. But yet we're not. The paradox is we're not actively trying to get rid of the thoughts. We're not pushing them away. We're just being with what is. So all these practices are just observing what's already in play. We're just making it conscious. So the body scan, we're just seeing what's there. And the byproduct of that will be eventually less thinking. But we can't go directly for less thinking because that's just stirring the pond. That's just gonna, or that we'll end up with the ghost cave. It's just sort of almost like a dissociated state. So it's yeah. So yeah, to me it all comes down to just as it is. Just noticing, am I resisting anything that's arising? And I can't deny any part of myself in my meditation practice. I'm inviting all parts in.
okay, thank you.
Mm.
And then the second question, I won't be able to participate tomorrow. I'll have to watch the replay. Um, I- are, your teachings are amazing. You're a wonderful teacher. How would we be able to get access to your teachings? You know what? Maybe if you're going to cover this tomorrow, you don't have to answer it. I don't want to take up the time. To access to, continue with the teachings. And also, if you would consider a longer retreat, because I feel like the momentum's just getting going now. Like, I don't know why it takes me a long time, and I feel like, oh, I'd like it to continue now that I feel like I'm warmed up.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider a retreat?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm actually, so what I have in the plan, which is actually coming together pretty quickly, is eventually I want to have it so that these retreats are just ongoing continuously. But I'm not going to sit and for 7 days every day. But what I want to do is like have the teachings and core teachings available from all different retreats. So they're all different versions of the teachings. So you could replay teachings from maybe 5 or 6 different retreats, and then people can sit together. There would still, like, because we have daily Zoom sits and everything, so we would coordinate it so that people are sitting together live every day. And then there's a Dyad app being created as well. So people will be able to do the Dyads in the evening. So it'll be sort of create your own retreat. But it would start like every Saturday and then end on the Friday, the same, as this retreat. So it's basically like doing this retreat continually. So people could jump in and you could just stay in the loop as long as you want. And then I'm probably be doing a weekly check-in kind of thing with the group. So that is in the works. So it would be like an ongoing sadhana little world that people can just jump into anytime. So that's a
That's
plan.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And will you do any more in-person retreats?
At this point, I don't know. Like right now, I'm working on 2 films, and then I have all this online stuff that's really coming together. So that's what's alive right now for me, and I'm not sure. After all those projects are complete, then I'm going to feel into the energies and see where things are at. and yeah, so I don't know. I have to just take it from there when I get there. So
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Dan D.
Hi, Dan.
Hello. Hi, Dan. Yeah. I have two questions, one about meditation and one about continuous practice. But first, I feel the need to thank you for the teachings, and to thank everybody who shared. I relate to the struggles. And also, I want to thank everybody who shares insights. It's inspiring, and there are like two legs that help me walk through this. So about meditation, I try the two techniques. I'm working both with following the breath, and both with choiceless awareness. And I cannot use only choiceless awareness. It feels more like yin, like letting go, and I'm going like zone out. There are thoughts coming, some very interesting ideas in the head that I would like to journal about, but I'm not doing it. When I'm doing following the breath, it feels like the energy of the body increases, and I feel the resistance in the body, and they are integrating. There is release, there is sadness for hours and months, and there is anger coming out, which is integrated release, and it's refreshing afterwards. So am I getting this? Does this look right for you?
Yeah. I mean, to me, on my own path, I did, Vipassana meditation, going into the body. Like for me, working with the breath is, I got to a point with the Vipassana that I would feel the whole body on the in-breath, the whole body on the out-breath.
Yes.
So to me, they're the same practice at a certain point. And I did
Yes.
that for years and years. Like that there was a long period of, releasing the resistance in the body and purifying samskaras. And I feel like we will naturally, just be drawn to a choiceless awareness at a certain point. When the mind is really settled, when there's a greater ease in the body, then we'll just be naturally drawn to that. So, and it can change as well. Sometimes there are periods where we need to do the clearing, and it actually accelerates, like the merging into that sort of
Yeah.
choiceless awareness state. It's actually faster than if we just went right into choiceless awareness.
Right. Very,
Yeah.
very
So
clear.
yeah. So
Thanks.
I
Thanks.
think yeah. So I think there's a place for all these tools, and we're just. It sounds like you just have a natural intuition of which one to use, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And about the continuous practice, I feel that there is more to just mindfulness. It's about when eating, just eating, okay. But this is looking through the world and letting things happen. In addition to this, I feel that there is the sense of I, that I exist, my consciousness, and by resting in that also, there is some opening. If I only focus on what I'm doing, what is happening, I get caught in that, and the character becomes I can zone out into the character,
Mhm.
which I do often. But by trying to recall that I am the witness, it seems to help me be more present, more for longer periods, and also checking from time to time that am I aware? Of course I am. And then I have this feeling of I-amness. I try to rest a few seconds at least in that, or take a breath. And then the periods of being conscious, being mindful are longer. And by doing that, I am able also during the day, even at work, I work with computers, and it's amazing that I'm able to work even scientific questions while being able to watch like the life is happening by itself. Also feeling the body. So if there are any emotions, feel it. And also, this is one thing. And the second thing, being aware that I am the one that is aware of all this, not pushing the I am, it doesn't exist. No, for me, for now, I feel it, and I try to. I see this like two legs also, in a way to advance. How do you? Any comments about that? That
Yeah,
seems
those
okay.
are amazing insights. Um, for me, I work on a computer quite a bit with the films as well. And years ago, like before I got into meditation, when I was younger, I worked in the television industry, and I worked on the computer back then, but it was with very different. It was with the mind, and it was just making me sick. I wasn't connected with my body, or I didn't experience I amness or anything. But now I'm doing the same thing I was doing back then, editing films and videos. But there's an embodied experience, and exactly like you described, you're aware of what's going on, if emotions are coming up or whatever. So and yeah, so I think there's a way to just be fully present with what's happening. And when we leave this retreat and we go into the world, the like in Zen, they say, like true Zen is just ordinary life. It's just but it's an intimacy with ordinary life. It's a different level of intimacy. So we actually feel what is going on within the character, and we can have more and more direct experiences with life if we're abiding as that conditioned mind, or the unconditioned mind, as the energy flows freely. So we get to see the conditioned mind. Like that's the big thing when people leave these
Yes.
these retreats,
Yeah.
they'll catch the mind, they'll see the character, and the pattern coming up and going back into pattern, and it'll start to become more and more conscious.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, great insights. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Richard.
Good morning.
Hi, Richard.
Hey, so first of all, I want to start off with thank you so much for producing this and putting this together. It's been epic.
Mhm.
So I wanted to share something that happened this morning as I was getting ready for the day. Um, I had this thought come into my head about not know, know, and I went from not know to know in that thought, and it was um a total understanding of what's going on in the retreat and in my mind. And like I can't even tell you, it's hard. Well, explaining it is not possible, but the joy and the love and the happiness I'm feeling right now is like the switch got flipped from where I was yesterday morning at the same time, which was anger and moodiness and all this other stuff.
Wow.
And it's like I have this mind now in this little suitcase over here that I can just put aside and
Amazing.
experience. Yeah. So thank
That's
you so much. It's been
awesome.
epic. So
Wonderful. Yeah, however we describe that, it's a sort of unhooking from that pathological fixation on the mind, and yeah, if you can put it in a suitcase, or just sometimes It's you can just see that you're not that character. And yeah, once the energy becomes free of that conditioned self, it's that is the bliss that all the yogis talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm sitting here like buzzing and warm and glowing.
Hmm.
It's pretty cool. And it's funny, I'm looking at the top. It's Razi, Kevin, and Jason. This was yesterday's lineup, wasn't it? Hi guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. Razi.
Hi, Razi.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Thank you, everybody. It's a question about sleep. Um, last night there was intention, and last night was the night I had the most amount of time to sleep. And the intention was to continue this beingness that was present,
Mhm.
but that there was like, wanting the dyad to happen. And I was imagining that as I was trying to enter the sleep.
Mm. Mhm.
But I think there was tension there. I was trying to make something to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm realizing that I was just sitting, waiting to ask the question.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing is, I had the most amount of disturbance. Like there was so much popping of my jaws. Like I woke up a lot during the night. The sleep was very disturbed. Usually when I sleep, I'm just gone.
Mhm.
I don't have memories of dreams in general.
Mhm.
But last night it was waking up, disturbing. Oh, is it time? Is it not time? What's happening? Oh, I'm not getting any dreams.
Mhm.
And then interestingly enough, I missed the meditation, which I've never done, at least this retreat.
Mm.
And woke up, surprisingly, there was not an upset. Usually it's like, shit, I missed it. I always do this. It
Yeah.
was like, okay, I just continued the beingness, just noticed the meditation was missed. There
Mhm.
was confusion that there was not an upset. There was literally a dissonance there.
Yeah.
Walked to the backyard, sat in the backyard on the grass, and just meditated there for some time with the trees, the wind, the grass, and just meditated
Mhm.
and just enjoyed that and did other things, whatever.
Mhm.
And so that was a question about the sleep cycle, wanting to continue this beingness. Certainly, it's not happening right now.
Mhm.
And then in the meditation, similar, today I'm sitting on the chair thinking, oh, I'll give a break to the legs and see how that goes.
Mhm.
There seems to be more beingness in the waking world, or not calling waking world, but just the beingness is still there. But in meditation, it's not as deep as I'm used to having in meditation. So there's a little confusion there also. I don't know if you could speak to any of that.
Mhm. Yeah. So I would say, like, for going into the sleep cycle, um, yeah, it really, like, for me, like, I just sort of recognize the beingness is present there. Like when I, you know, my Dan character had like very strong. I think everyone has strong patterns around sleeping. So, you know, I think a lot of it is just recognizing like the habitual patterns that we have around sleep. So when you get into bed, you turn onto a certain side, or there are all these things that the mind usually starts producing the same thoughts every night, or similar thoughts. When if we just leave the mind. So if you go into the sleep, maybe just conscious of the body position, like not just sort of habitually going into a position, and just observing the mind, just resting in awareness, but not just going, immediately into kind of dream mode, but maybe, like I mentioned, that hypnagogic state where the mind starts to produce those dream images. So if we can start to kind of just look at the mind resting as awareness. And then, the rest of it really is, it's just a byproduct of doing a lot of inquiry, like Turiya and these, experiences of the self, like the true self, just abiding through dreaming in deep sleep. Like we can't control that, like it's grace, that when that shows up, it's up to God. It's not, I
Yeah.
can't make that happen, but I find that we do, if there's that openness, so we're not just caught in the old pattern, going into the sleep cycle. It's like we meet God halfway, kind of. We're like creating an openness, to just whatever is meant to happen in that space will happen.
I keep missing that hypnagogy. I don't know the word. I keep
Yeah.
missing that window. Like I'm there
Hmm.
and I am like waiting, and then it's kind of like either I'm just gone or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just or I'm turning because I'm used to turning, and I know if I'm flat and still, it's
Hmm.
probably more conducive, but it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So
will
that's
probably
it.
try to stay longer in that.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting when you start to interrupt those comfort patterns a bit, and um, excuse me. Um, yeah, not hypnagogic imagery. It can come for different people at different times as well. Like sometimes when people get up and go to the washroom and then come back, you're kind of in that in-between state. Or maybe in the early morning. It might be there at different times, so you could kind of explore that. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like you sort of interrupted the usual pattern anyway. So, there's stuff
Yes.
happening and
So stuff is happening,
yeah.
and I want to report. You were asking for what you're talking about is happening with me. Like I can report like went for a walk this morning. The chatter started coming. What if this? What that? Just noticing it's happening by itself. I'm not doing it anymore.
Hmm.
Like there's something that's noticing the chatter and noticing it's not me, and it's automatically getting dropped, and the beingness is just here. So it's already, I think the process is working. I believe it's happening by itself.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Those I think to me are the most important insights, like that are valuable for life, when we
So,
when
so to me, I still don't know if I'm awake or not, and even that's not even important right now. But
Mhm.
just to not be identified with the mind, to me is a huge blessing right now. It's the
Yeah.
first time I'm experiencing that in this retreat. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yeah, and we don't need to define it, As soon as it's like as soon as there's an I that says I'm awake.
Yeah, and there's a noticing of that, and even the meditation is not working. So there's an intuition inside that
Yeah.
that's just who is asking that. It seems like there is an imaginary destination, and I'm here, and there's this gap, and the mind's like, how do we jump this chasm?
Yeah.
But then it's like, who wants to jump, and what exists there? So it's automatically bringing it back to this moment, and like, if I'm not able to sit, that's not important. Like, just being here. And for me, it seems like maybe it's a gradual, like it'll build up naturally versus a pushing. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Like to me, the most important things are, you know, catching the mind, just knowing that we're this awareness that's always here. And, the things that have been most valuable in my relationships and my day-to-day life, it's being able to just watch from that place of awareness and watch the mind. And sometimes like catching, I've come back from retreats, and just the old pattern will start, and literally like mid-sentence it'll just drop, like it'll just stop, and and
Beautiful.
and it's like, oh, it's starting again. You could feel the resistance in the body coming up when the energy is going in the ego structure, and it's, then there's a space around it, when we're like you said, like there's something that recognizes that, awareness is just sort of self drops then when it's like a million little wake ups, during the day that start
That
happening.
is so surprising. I would never have known that because coming from strong mind identification. And by the way, I just want to say this to everybody else that may be struggling because I have for a long time.
Mhm.
This works. It's happening. If it can happen for me, it's happening. And
Mhm.
it never realized because I always have been so into struggle and effort, and now it's happening by itself. So
Yeah.
yeah, just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Rosie.
Thank you. Kevin.
Yeah. I like Razi, I'm somebody who's been struggling for a long time, about 35 years, and always feeling in settings like this, like I'm the only one who doesn't get it, and I'm the only one who's never going to get it. And I am clear about why some of that was happening this morning. Something shifted for me, and it shifted partly because I stopped trying to do it right. I stopped trying to not move when I meditate. I stopped trying to follow directions. I moved as it felt good and true to move. I quit disciplining my mind. And I dropped into contemplation that included the mind. The mind was part of it. Although I understand the pitfalls of the mind, it was helpful this morning. And I think part of the problem is there's all these pointers that may not fit for everyone. In fact, they may actually be really unhelpful. And one of them I can remember from earlier in the retreat was you need to approach this like your hair's on fire. Like you need to want this with that kind of desperation. And immediately when I heard that, it's like, I don't want it like my hair's on fire. I guess I'm going to fail again. I'm not going to get this again. And then when the woman, Razi's share yesterday was really helpful for me because he talked a little bit about moving when he meditated. So I was contemplating that. And then also the woman at the end who shared that she doesn't want to sit in a cave like all the great sages did, that it feels like violence to her body. And the generosity and warmth with which you greeted that and said this may not be your path or that may not be your path, those were all things I was feeling into this morning. And the pointer, learn to love the fear and the anger. I've been through 4 nervous breakdowns from overwhelming terror. And that's another place where I can hear and I go, you know what? I'm never going to get this. I can't love the fear and I can't love the terror. Or the ideas of non-attachment or no preference. I'm just checking off all these boxes. I'm never going to get it. I try, and the trying doesn't make it happen. I've tried for 35 years to be that spiritual person, to be that Buddha, to be like the Buddha. So what I wrote down this morning, the shift was really just the contemplation that awareness has always been here. And it's the most steady thing that's been here while this person that I am has been going through changes. And I just got that it was somehow an identification shift that I could identify as awareness. And that there was a freedom in that, and that was steady, that was reliable. And I wrote down this after the contemplation. I'm the awareness that's always been here. And this again, earlier you said awareness has no qualities, and if I hung on to that with my mind, I might still be stuck, but what I felt this morning, what came to me is these qualities of awareness. Awareness has no rules. Awareness has no shame. Awareness is free. Nothing can bind awareness or hurt it or diminish it. And I'm that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Wow, that
And
sounds like it came from the Ashtavakra Gita or one of these beautiful ancient teachings.
and and I wrote, awareness forgives everything. Nothing sticks to awareness. Like it doesn't matter what I did or what I didn't do, what I didn't understand, how much shame I carried. Awareness forgives all that. It is just always there. It's always this life force that nothing sticks to, and I'm that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, that's a transmission that you just gave us. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, yeah. All of those. I forget. There is some beautiful text like the Ashtavakra Gita or one of those ones that literally almost the same words that you just expressed. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
Jason.
Jason.
Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Couple of things. These dyads are incredibly powerful. I noticed um, really being able to kind of that peak state almost started rising again during the dyads last night. Like, and feels like it's kind of stabilizing. Like coming. There is kind of a sense of loss almost after that peak state diminished and the mind came back because it
Mhm.
was like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's like,
totally. Yeah, yeah. It's
and there was
definitely.
a sense, yeah, and there's a sensitive, it's like a little bit of sadness, some loss that went on.
Mhm.
And I really noticed that it kind of really started to stabilize again back in the dyads last night, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I just wanted to make that comment.
yeah. And
Other
that's
thing,
it's a very super common thing that I think it's really important. I'd like to highlight something there that because everybody, when there is this glimpse, this sort of breakthrough, it's awesome. It feels awesome. But what feels awesome is the state. But the state is only there because awareness is just sort of awake to itself. And the awareness so the state's going to change no matter what. We can't always be in a blissful state. We're going to be somewhere on that continuum of, attachment on one end and samadhi on the other end, but the knower of that continuum is always that one awareness. So once we're just okay with those changing states, then the paradox is the energy is going to be more free. We're going to have more of those direct experiences, and we'll more be at the other end of the continuum. But we really have to drop those preferences towards states in order for that to happen. So, yeah.
the other thing is, so I have there's this strong like protection mechanism within the ego or the mind, regarding been involved in a personal injury lawsuit for the last couple of years, which has been very, very difficult on the mind.
Mm.
Um, the mind, looking at it, it really wants to intervene and it gets triggered and it like does some tricky stuff
Mhm.
when it starts to think about this.
Mhm.
Um, you know, just allowing and trusting within the self. And I get that in meditation, but
Mhm.
bringing that into the real world when you're actually, the mind gets activated and
Yeah.
it engages and then it kind of takes over in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Any help with that?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, so the bridge between, the peace that we feel in this practice, we're, the idea is to create that bridge. So how do we create that bridge? So the dyads are one way to we start to be able to recognize awareness even when the mind is active. In the dyads, we allow the mind to come up, but we abide in that awareness. Letting the words come from a deeper place, from not just from the mind. So that can start to bring us into allowing the mind to be there, but not operating from those old resistance patterns. And it's like if I look at my own life, I had a period where when I was doing a lot of Vipassana meditation, at that time I had a crazy external circumstance where somebody was suing me at the time. So and like threatening to take my whole world away. What felt like my whole world.
Yeah.
My material stuff. So
Right.
my
Right.
business and everything. And this was like an ongoing, long, like a couple years of this ongoing lawsuit,
Same here.
and it was like the mind was pathological. Like I was literally sitting there, at the Vipassana center for days, and there were thoughts of like going and killing this guy, and like just all these thoughts in the mind, and it was just
Mhm.
like constant, dissolving and going, feeling what's happening in the body. It was just a lot of work, but that was the thing for me that took me so deep into my practice that I actually realized that guy, he was my teacher. He was my greatest teacher in my whole life, because nothing else would have taken me that deep into meditation. So, so it's not comfortable. It's not, it's not fun, but it actually, sometimes life gives us these things, and it actually
Yeah.
it is the way. Hmm. Hmm.
So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for everything there.
Hmm.
Bien.
Thank you.
Hi, Van.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone. I don't have the insight, but just a funny. I think it's a funny story or funny things in my meditation this morning. When I do the meditation, is with like I didn't think of anything. Just suddenly, I see myself like turning into the tree, and, and I was running the running tree and laughing, and all other tree look at me and say, like, how could I do that? So it's like funny, and then and I just running and laugh out loud. So I laugh out loud in my meditation as well. And the next thing is like I just see myself as mosquito and, and a giant mosquito. And then I said, what? Mosquito? Why is mosquito? Like the choosing my like I don't want to be a mosquito. I don't want to drink human blood. Can I be vegetarian mosquito? And then I laugh again. But yeah, it's just funny thing. Am I doing it right?
Mhm. Well,
Oh, it's like turn like
so it seems like your energy is becoming very free, and there's like a creative part of the mind that's coming online. So if you're just allowing the energy to move, whatever's happening, if you're do you feel what else is happening in the body in your meditation? Do you feel like you know an aliveness in the body, or what's happening there?
it's very after that, then I wake up from that cartoon thing, and then it's a very quiet. It's like, yeah, nothing much happened. But I'm not sure whether I have the direct experience or my illusion. About a year and a half ago, when I went to work, it just when I see uh, somehow I have the connection with the tree a lot. Like when I went to work, and just all of a sudden, without the mind thinking or anything, it's just when I see the sun shining through all the leaves and the wind blowing, gentle wind blowing all the leaves, it's like I feel like I see it like the tree waving at me, and all the leaf, like the leaf is like smiling at me. Uh, I see all the smile. So, and then for the entire day, I was smiling. Uh, for that entire day, it's like I need some kind of medication or something. Like, I'm so happy, and it's happened occasionally. Since that day,
Yeah.
I can relate so much um to Buddha teachings from just watching the tree. When I go on hiking or something, it's just if I see the dead tree, and then the little tree growing onto the dead tree. It's like it teaching me um, life in death and death in life. Um, and just watching the tree is like teaching me a lot, like the
Beautiful.
impermanency, um, and the constant change in the tree, but it's still, it's you can't see the change, but it's changing. And when the 4 seasons, it's like when you see the tree changing during 4 seasons, it's like the circle of life. So it's there. I'm watching the tree a lot, and I like, it's like talking to it, but it's not like. So I'm not
Beautiful.
sure if I illusional or something.
No, nature is a beautiful teacher. It's a beautiful teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your practice now, it like whatever that feeling of aliveness, you described how that smile comes and that aliveness. So when you feel that that life inside, that's kind of what we're moving towards with all of the dyads, all of this practice. When we sort of unhook from the mind, then yeah, we get these experiences with life, and we can see that everything is our teacher, everything is reflecting back that one truth. So yeah, so just yeah, it sounds like your energy seems good, and there's an aliveness there. So keep going, and just keep inquiring. Like all that phenomena is changing. All those experiences, but the one who is aware is is
Yeah.
is just you. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And I just I very struggle with the diet. Um, up until this morning when you mentioned about um see the non-selves, and I thought maybe that's because of that. Coming from Asian background, it's really shy for me to share things or to speak up or to open up. And I think that is the block that I see the separate self from me to the witness,
Mhm.
and that's stopping me to to share anything or to express.
Mhm.
So maybe tonight I'll give it a try and see
Mhm.
the oneness in the witness and see how it goes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
amazing.
thank
Yeah,
you.
and the fact that you're sharing that now means you're clearing it. as you're speaking it right now. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Louis.
Hi, Louis.
Yeah. I wasn't planning to share, but like with everything that was shared, it was so resonating with everything. So it's like, oh, maybe I should share something. And just like looking at the chat, like something that Kevin shared about everyone. Hello? Yeah, about about everyone gets it but me.
Mm.
Like we're like I see a lot of like people resonating me too, me three, and me.
Mhm.
And
Amazing how much that comes up. Yeah, everybody
yeah.
everybody thinks they're the only one. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, like I was struggling with it. I'm like, what am I gonna do when I go home? Because like last time like I had a spontaneous, I don't know if it was a glimpse, but like my mind was peaceful. And I was like, oh, I'm not getting it this time. And what am I gonna do when I go home? And all that. But but I did, like reflecting, there is something like with the diet yesterday. Um it was interesting because I was in the diet. I was already feeling more peaceful. The peace was coming in. And then um like my partner, her suddenly she disappeared. I think it's a computer
Oh yeah.
glitch or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then she came back within 50 seconds, and then I started reporting again. I was like, wow. I said, you should do these interruptions more because my mind there's
Mhm.
suddenly became more quiet than before. And I realized these um, imperatives and like what you said about the Zen master hitting it, like that glitch was kind of what happened
Mhm.
because it
Amazing.
just
Yeah.
shocked the mind. And
Yeah.
I was wow, I'm even more peaceful.
Wow.
And yeah, that was so cool. And then that piece continued, and I realized like all the themes you talked about, they're aligned with like the dark horse. Um, I'm able to, like when something negative or some emotion, I'm able to be with the feeling. And my insight was like the mind is not an enemy.
Mhm.
Um, I was like, well, yeah, it's
Mhm.
not an enemy. It's just there.
Ah,
Um,
yeah. That's a huge one. I mean, yeah, it's, actually stopped using, things, phrases like ego death and those types of things because, yeah, it's so prevalent that we think we have to conquer the mind or even those ox herding pictures like taming the mind, like it's like we're going to battle in a way, but it's at a certain point we realize it's only the mind going to battle with itself. So it's
yeah,
like who's trying to tame the ox, right? So like awareness is just here, so at a certain point, that's when we give up these techniques, when we realize that madness, we give up the doing part of the practice. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because the harder I tried to, you know,
Yeah.
blame the mind or get rid of the mind, it's worse.
Yeah.
So I got to a point it was, well, it's not the enemy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Amazing.
and like I realized this whole process, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling the peace, but I'm not sure if this is awakening. Like I'm not getting the textbook awakening. So, but then I realized there's nothing wrong with this. This is because that's the peace that we're all sort of looking for anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like last night there was, I was at a point where I was like, okay, I don't need anything else. So like, do I need this textbook awakening?
Yeah.
But I realized it's like my biggest takeaway is like this whole process is just a process. And like there's still work in progress, but it's the process. Um and I had an image. I was doing a diet with Lila, and this image kept coming up with the floor in my toilet. I was like, what is this? And the message was like, keep flushing. Keep flushing.
Nice.
And I feel like, yeah, it's it's actually, maybe it's a matter of intensity, because I can feel the presence,
Mhm.
but sometimes it can be more intense and sometimes it's not.
Mhm.
That's all it is, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's just there's when we do more clearing, it's it's like the clouds are become thinner and thinner, and the sun just shines through. It's,
Yeah.
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 I love that you're dropping the textbook idea. Yeah. Whatever
It
whatever the mind learns in the textbook, it's never that.
Yeah, and I realized it's like a loosening of, like when I'm doing the diets before, I'm like trying to sit the right way,
Mhm.
and I'm doing all this, and then I realized like it's just my conditioning of like I have to behave this way and that way. And I
Yeah.
started to do this. I was
Mhm.
like, this is not, I can do this.
Mhm.
And it's not like it's not allowed. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm feeling more relaxed. And I was feeling more like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
then everything started like kind of coming.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing. It's yeah, at the beginning it's like we have these discipline practices,
yeah,
and then it is a letting go of all of that. At a certain point we abandon all the shoulds, and all the techniques, and once that energy, those things, those disciplines at the beginning are good to rein
yeah,
that mind in a little bit, but then that's good. There's a freedom and a spontaneity, and yeah, we let go of all the shoulds. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So thank you. And lastly, I want to thank you and like acknowledge you for being a really patient teacher.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I think your patience is like a testimony to your practice or your awakened state, because we have all these questions, and sometimes, there's a lot of judgments, like I would, what kind of question is this or this? And you really are very patient with, and I've been to this talk long time ago with, like, he's a guru, he's got like thousands of people, and like someone was reading these questions for him, and his answer was like, "Ha- oh, haven't you watched my YouTube channel?"
Mm.
Something like that.
Mhm.
And like I could tell, like, not to judge, but like you're embodying the practice, because that patience really shows.
Thank you.
And so sometimes when I face situations in life, I always refer to role models, and I go, okay, what would Dan do in this situation? And yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Louis. Yeah. Well, for me, doing these talks, I feel like this is actually my um, one of the situations when I put myself in, these kinds of talks. It's like something comes online, and that version of Dan, I like it. So it's interesting. I get so much from interacting with people, and I learn so much from this. So it is really a privilege to be in this position, because I'm just, it's fascinating watching people go through this process. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we have time for one more. Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello, hi Dan.
Oh, we lost
So,
your image.
yeah, okay, sorry.
There you go.
Okay. So, yeah, just a share, I guess. The the dyads, when I started doing them, and like the imperative is given, started pushing me to this space of presence. But they were not not much coming up, nothing exotic to describe. And this was happening on every dyad. But what happens during these dyads, I noticed, is it pushes me to that space of presence. And it allows me to recognize that space. So even though nothing is coming, it's such a strong recognition, which otherwise in meditation, there tends to be a kind of searching for
Yeah.
that, maybe in a way. But this way, just a direct realization, oh, this is the space. So nothing was coming up. And so my dads were generally very boring, I guess. However, what happened today is after the meditation, like this is actually in between the meditation, my phone went off, so I didn't know when the gong is going to go. And incidentally, at the same time, my ex-girlfriend walked in. And all the previous, whatever you say, those things which were bottled up, they all started suddenly coming. And then automatically a dyad started happening inside where I was like, oh, I'm noticing this anger coming up. There's a little bit of frustration coming up about this. There's this, and it also related back to maybe what happened in the past and things like that. So that gave me an idea of the clearing process because that was so wonderful that all of those things just popped up and they were just coming up. And so doing a dyad with myself, wow, that and then I took the bike out, went to some shopping, and the same thing, like whatever was like being it was I was just dieting that. And
Yeah,
wow,
everything in life can become a dyad. It really, everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
it's incredible. Yeah, yeah, that's
it is.
amazing. That's a huge insight. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So
Like,
yeah, it's that space of just being, and now everything that comes up. It's just like in the dyad. We can watch it, just watch what's the mind producing in this situation or this situation, and just allow. And yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
and just one more, I guess, a share as well as just trying to find out if there's anything wrong in that. Like a lot of times we come across decisions to be made, and you don't know whether the decision is coming from the character or the decision is coming from this. So one of the things that I started doing in the last couple of days is asking the question, what is the most exciting thing to do right now? When a situation arises, then I have a choice. And just moving towards whatever feels like that. I don't know whether for the mind or but whatever feels like the most exciting thing to do in that situation, moving towards that. And yeah, it's working well. So that was a share, but any comments on that or anything?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think what comes up for me is a teaching from Joseph Campbell. Actually, he's famous for saying, "Just follow your bliss," which is your excitement, that aliveness inside. So, and what he meant by that is, not just going after pleasure, but what is it that makes life feel alive, like that direct connection with life. And for me, that's how we navigate life is, when does it feel like I'm in that resistance, and that, because whenever there's that resistance, it's the ego, filtering. So when it feels alive, when we feel directly that excitement, that's our life, that's our spirit, that's present. To me, that is the compass in life. So yeah, when we tune into that, it might take us here and there, but it's trustable. Yeah.
Sweet, yes, that was my share. Thank you very much,
All right.
Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful insights. Thank you. All right. Wow. Perfect timing. Look at that. 12:30 exactly. It's amazing how that happens. So yeah, thanks everyone. And I think Chad is going to be on. I'm going to be doing Tayama, just a little tech test with Chad. So I'm going to create a breakout room and we'll go in there and do our thing. So yeah, thanks everyone.